Hello everybody and welcome to the first instalment of PPL Training Insights. That's the name that we've given to our very first interview series, designed to give our clients and followers a bit of a sneak peek into the classroom. We'll be chatting to some of the people who have made PPL Training one of the UK's leading safe systems of work and technical compliance training course providers. My name's David Lewis. I'm the marketing manager at PPL Training, and this week I was lucky enough to chat to not one but two of our training managers, namely Graham Taylor and Gavin Spence. Graham is unfortunately, or fortunately for him, taking a semi-retirement, so I was keen to chat to him about his years at PPL Training, multiple decades of experience in the industry, and also, from my personal perspective, wanted to just say thank you to Graham for all that he's done for PPL Training. Graham has some stories to tell, knowledge to share, and shares his thoughts on his successor, Gavin Spence. But more on Gavin in the next interview, so without further ado, let's have a really quick chat with Graham Taylor. Thanks for listening. Thank you very much for joining me today for a trip down memory lane. If you could start by giving us a bit of an overview of your time at PPL.
When did I start? 2013, I think it was. So I've been here 11 years. We started with just a few of us, and that's right across the whole PPL training offerings. In our team, there was probably just 2, 3, then 4, and then 6, and then Slough. And then 3, 4, 5 people at Slough. So we end up with a team across the York and Slough centres of around about anywhere between 10 and 14 throughout the years. We've got a portfolio of around 17 courses, which translates into nearly 30 courses when you consider that some of the courses, there are 4 versions of each. The HV courses, we've got 5 of those now, and there are 4 versions of each of those, so there's 20 courses. We started with just the basic HV and the LV AP courses. What else do you want to know?
So you touched on it there, the AP courses, which for people who are listening who might not understand, that's authorised person. Obviously, the authorised person sits within a safe system of work, but can you explain what a safe system of work is and give an example of how that translates on the HV and LV side of things?
Yeah, within any industry, people take responsibilities. Some people are called duty holders, maybe just supervisors. It depends on which business you're looking at. What we have done, and when I say we, people who align with our industries, what we've done is said that, well, there must be a team that controls this. So within that team, we identify these people. The HSE like this, they even recommend giving names for people that take on these roles and the duties involved. So we start with the people basically on the tools doing the work, often called a CP, a competent person, or a skilled person. Somebody needs to make things safe for them, issue documents and that kind of thing. So they would be authorised persons. Again, some people call them duty holders or designated persons, or maybe just the electrical supervisor. It depends on the industry. Since these people need authorising, then we need somebody that must be above them to authorise them. So you end up with authorising engineers. Again, that might well be the chief electrical engineer or somebody that carries out those duties. Above the authorising engineer, there may be other lines of supervision or management within the business, but the authorising engineer is the person who lays down the recommendations for how to follow a safe systems of work. Now, for the safe systems of work, it's pretty much all around how we control work safely, utilising some rules, but documentation. So the key role, in my opinion, the key role is the authorised person, because they have to make sure that the work gets done. That's business. But they also have to make sure it gets done safely by following a set of rules that the AE has laid down and said, this is the set of rules to follow for this safe system of work. We take our approach on safe systems of work from tried and tested sources, such as any British standards, but in the main, the HSE and how they have interpreted British standards and regulations and law. So when we get a recommendation from the HSE or a guidance from the HSE, we take it seriously, almost as though it's law, even though we know it isn't. And that's how we develop our safe systems of work, such as one that is a lot of people understand, which is the 5 golden rules of dead working. So when we're working on equipment, it is recommended you work dead. The equipment is not live or charged. So we need to follow a methodology to make sure that it is dead and not charged when people are touching those conductors. And that methodology doesn't change. It's always the same methodology.
Fabulous. So I know from my time here at PPL Training that the high voltage maintenance side of things has been like a real sort of passion project for you. It's not something that we see all that often elsewhere in industry as far as training providers go. No. So I just wondered if you could give us a little bit of an overview of what you see our high voltage maintenance course as and how that came about.
Yeah, the high voltage maintenance course developed through demand, customers, clients asking for a course that gave them some kind of credential or qualification on the maintenance of high voltage systems. My background for years, pretty much all my working life, has been involved in maintenance of some kind, not necessarily high voltage. So, utilising my experience, I decided that we wouldn't have a maintenance course that just taught practical maintenance, using tools, stripping down equipment, that kind of thing. We need to do some of that to demonstrate certain aspects, but it's more about the where, when, and how to do maintenance. What laws we might need to comply with, why we're doing the maintenance, how often we should do it, the when we're doing the maintenance, and so on. So the course that we put together is approximately 50% in the workshops so that we can make it feel a little bit more practical and realistic, but a good 50% in the classroom so that we can look at the theories, the psychology behind some of the maintenance, and some of the understandable practices. When I say understandable, as opposed to those that are enforced, because enforcing something doesn't always mean it's understandable. So we try and take the enforcement out of it and show why we're doing something in an understandable way. It's become quite a successful course. Two reasons, and I can admit this one. I think it's a good course. We put an awful lot of information on the table for people to take away. Not necessarily 100% of it, but what they take from it. But the other reason is that nobody's competing with us. Seriously, it is one of those where, this is a course where we don't have competition on this style of course. Even some of the manufacturers, or the OEMs, may well do some maintenance tuition, but it tends to be on their own equipment. And it's more a case of a bit like a Haynes manual. For those that don't know, the car manuals, the Haynes manuals, it's that kind of tuition. We would rather give people the information or where to find the information so that they can make their own decisions and take away understanding rather than parrot fashion.
So it's almost like a step above the manufacturer's instructions, essentially.
We get the type of people we get on it are the people that work on HV equipment and want to do some of their own maintenance or just understand it for when they bring people, contractors in perhaps, to do the maintenance. But we also get the supervisors and managers. And I can tell the difference when they're sat there, because when I talk about OEEs and things like that and MTBFs, and the managers all prick their ears up because they have to do reporting on this kind of thing. And all the guys that do the actual work all fall asleep. And then when I talk about making adjustments and how to get the best out of equipment, the managers might fall asleep, and all the guys that actually want to do this, they all prick their ears up. So you can see the different people on the course, and it actually blends well, because nobody ever gets 100% from a course. If you can get 20% of a course, you're pretty clever, you're doing well. So I'm aiming at quite a few people. The audience is varied, yeah.
On the point that you made on the high voltage maintenance course around the sort of 50% split between classroom and practical, obviously one of the other success stories that you've had here at PPL Training as the HVLV training manager is the creation of the high voltage foundation course. Would you be able to give us a little bit overview of, again, how that came about and what the course is and how that helps people?
So the high voltage foundation course is one of those courses where I could hear the demand for more experience of switching, because we don't get it at our place of work, because we don't do a great deal of HV, but we have to have the credentials to be able to do it as and when necessary. We get that from the actual people on AP courses, but also on the AE courses, because the authorising engineers, when they do an audit 12 months after their last one and find out that the people they're auditing haven't done anything since the last time, they're looking for something. Along with people saying, do you not do anything at a foundational level? In other words, we're thinking of going into the HV game, but we don't know much. And then you've also got other people that are already authorised. Yes, they want the extra switching experience, but they'd also like a credential to say so. So we thought we'd put it all together, do a course that is more than 50% in the workshop. It isn't a safe systems of work, although we do pay attention to safe systems of work, just to emphasise that it's always there. So they don't have to write out safety programs or any of their own planning. We do all that, but then get them to follow it and also understand. You may not be an AP, but you may have to receive a document. So we give that understanding as well, the receipt of documents. Because out there, I don't know anybody that does a CP course or a skilled persons course for HV personnel. They have to come on AP courses. So we put the HVF, or the High Voltage Foundation course, together to try and address this demand. We can do some marketing, we can try selling, but word of mouth is the best way. And once that word of mouth gets around, I think it'll be quite a successful course.
Hello, sorry for the interruption. I just want to let you all know that we have built a technical forum for people just like you. Those people who are carrying out high-risk activities in the workplace, which in this case might be high voltage switching or high voltage maintenance. So if you have any questions for our tutors or one of our authorised engineers from PPL Engineering Services, or you just want to share common ground with others in your field, head over to forum.pplpeople.com. That's forum.pplpeople.com to sign up. It's completely free and we won't ever share your data with anybody else. We're not sending you emails, it's all just so that you can chat to knowledgeable folk and stay safe. That's forum.pplpeople.com to sign up. Anyway, back to the interview. Right then, so we've spoken about your success stories while you've been at PPL Training there, or at least touched upon some of them. I just wondered if there was anything that you could share with us, little tidbits of information from your time in the manufacturing and print arena.
The industries that I've worked in are not our main customers. PPL's main customers are more the industries that I might have utilised, such as FM companies. I'm more from manufacturing, process. So I've been in car parts manufacturing, I've been in printing, and I've also been in cattle feed, believe it or not. I was 10 years as a production manager for a Unilever company. So quite varied. So when I'm at PPL, dealing with the customers that we have now, they are not necessarily from my background. Principles are the same in terms of safe systems, certainly in terms of electricity. What I see PPL's challenge going forward is to try and get into the market where I came from, which is industry. The ethos and the mentality, not better or worse, different, totally different. And it's tuning in to that mentality and being able to pass those offerings on in a saleable fashion. And that's from a business perspective. From a safe systems of a work perspective, I think that those industries that I was in are missing a trick, because the safe systems of work that we use aren't necessarily aligned with what they do. And in my opinion, the people in those industries need to have a good look, because they could be, and almost should be. It's a way of doing things that the MOD, the hospitals, the FM companies, and lots of others have now adopted, because it is straightforward, understandable, and manageable. In industry, I know it can get bitty, especially in manufacturing. And it is different, so what we do may have to be tailored slightly. No pun intended there, but I would be quite good at that. So it may have to be tailored slightly to suit their application. But I think once it was ingrained in their psyche, they'd wonder how they ever did without it.
And the tailoring, to use your pun, is something that we've done in the past as a company.
We have done it. We have been successful at it. One of the reasons why we are, and it is only one of the reasons, there are a number, but one of the reasons where we maybe aren't as quite successful as I would hope we would be, is because we've been so successful elsewhere, and that has taken up so much of our time and efforts. And not blowing our own trumpet, but we are experts in our field.
Fantastic. Well, we've kind of taken a little bit of a trip down memory lane there, but I wanted to ask you now about plans for the future. We obviously know that you are unfortunately leaving us, Graham, as you are retiring, but we've got people in place to take over from yourself, but we also know that you want to stick around and help us out with a few other things. So I don't know if you just want to touch on those points there, your successor and what he's going to be doing.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I want to take a step back anyway. The easiest way to do that is at my age, I can call myself retired. I also know myself, and if I was to retire, put my slippers on, put the pipe in my mouth and sit and watch telly, I'd be bored out of my brains in 3 months. So I will want to be doing something. I've got good relationships with the staff and management at PPL, where I can probably be of help, where it's of interest to me, earn a little bit of extra cash, but also benefit the company. So I have got some expertise from my past that we don't use at PPL, and maybe we can use some of those. There are a few projects that are ongoing that would be difficult for others to pick up from me. So I can be around to either finish them off, continue them, or pass them on to somebody that can pick them up. So that's the kind of work that I intend to be doing. And also I can do pretty much all of the full portfolio of our courses. So if we were short of a trainer for whatever reason, then I only live 1.5 miles away, so it's not a big deal for me to be called upon to do some training.
Fantastic. We'll pass that on to a gentleman by the name of Gavin Spence, who I believe is going to be taking over from you. I know that you have worked as Gavin's boss for a little while. Do you want to talk to Gavin as a trainer and how you think he's going to adapt to the new role as HVLV training manager?
I've got to say that I was, and I made sure that I wasn't because I knew I was leaving. I wasn't part of the process of appointing Gavin, but I'm pleased Gavin's been appointed. Gavin didn't work under me with close supervision. Gavin has always had to manage himself to quite an extent. I may well have put the courses in place, told Gavin what he has to do and when he has to do it, but pretty much he's had to manage his time and how he achieves all that because he was based in Scotland. And I'm in York, so it just wasn't practical. We had to have somebody that could actually look after themselves. So it does actually set him up nicely for being able to be my successor because he's already had to do quite a lot of his own planning and managing anyway. He seems to have all the attributes that's required. One thing that I think people will have to accept is it won't be done how Graham does it. Gavin's Gavin, so Gavin will eventually have his own way of doing things. I'm sure it will work whichever way he does it.
I just wanted to say, from my perspective personally, thank you very much for being so easy to work with, especially over the last couple of years when we've had to work quite closely together on some projects. And just, I'm sure other people across the company would be very sad to see you leave us on this sort of permanent basis that you've been here.
Just point out a couple of highlights that kind of set in my mind, that set PPL apart. Over the years, and you can't always say this at work, in fact, very few people say, there is nobody that I dislike that works at PPL. And we have, 75 people, 80 people? And there's nobody I dislike. Yes, you always like some more than others because that's the way relationships go. The other thing is, it's been really good being part of the growth of this company. And it has grown fast, and it has grown well and strong. And just one highlight, just to pick out, when we had the COVID, I don't know any other company that could have managed it that particular time better than PPL did. It was managed so well, but collaborative, as a collaboration with not just managers, but with the staff. And if there is a highlight to pick out of how well PPL works, it's how well they managed and then adapted and then changed with COVID. That, to me, that's the one thing that stands out and says this is what sets PPL apart from other companies, and the PPL people apart from other companies.
And I think there are still clients and people that we deal with and that I've spoken to on a sort of semi-regular basis that still call back to that time and how flexible we were with them and how well we dealt with that. But as you touched on there, you've been with the company for, I think, almost 12 years now, coming up next year. So just, again, a final thank you from me, and thank you very much for sitting with me and having this conversation.
Be good. Thank you.
Okay then, that concludes our chat with Graham Taylor. Graham, it was a genuine pleasure. Don't be a stranger, but maybe do enjoy the slippers and pipe for at least a couple of months. If you would like any more information on any of the training courses that Graham mentioned in our conversation, you can visit our website, that's ppltraining.co.uk, or you can drop us an email on info@ppltraining.co.uk. Join us in a few weeks' time for part 2 of this interview to hear from Graham's successor, Gavin Spence. But until then, stay safe, train well, and obviously enjoy the festive break. Thank you very much for listening.